We are here today because Roy Smith was here. Good afternoon and welcome to the Thailand Judicial District. Today we will celebrate history by realizing and sharing in Roy's vision of memorializing and recognizing the rich history of the Thailand Judicial District. I'd like to recognize Roy's family who's seated in the front here, including his wife, Attorney Sanji Williams, his son, Roy Smith Jr., and several other relatives. I would also like to recognize the Chief Court Administrative Judge, Patrick Carroll III, Deputy Chief Court Administrative Judge, Elizabeth Bizzuto, and former Deputy Chief Court Administrative Judge, and also former Thailand Administrative Judge, Elliot Solomon, who I might also add hired Roy in this position in 2009. Welcome. So a few housekeeping matters. Masks are optional, but encouraged. If you need a mask, there are some masks at the back of the room. This matter is being live streamed via Teams and YouTube, so you can see the cameras, and then thank you, Adam, for acting as our cameraman today. Bathrooms are in the very back of the room. And with that, I have the great pleasure of introducing to some and presenting to others our speaker for this afternoon, a valued employee and one of Roy's mentees, Acting Chief Clerk, Attorney Stephen Lombardi.
Thank you, Your Honor. A society grows great when people plant trees, the shade of which they know they will never sit in. Several weeks ago, we came together as colleagues, mentees, and friends to mourn the passing of the late Roy Smith Jr. We celebrated Roy's life and recounted stories that exemplified Roy as a loving husband, a dedicated father and mentor, and a fierce friend, the bedrock of so many of our lives. But today, we are not here to mourn, no. We are here today to witness the gifts of Roy's everlasting impact on our community. Roy and I worked with each other over the last 12 years, and today was officially opened. In May 2001, Roy was reclassified as Deputy Chief Clerk 2 for GA matters. And in November 2009, Roy was promoted to Judicial District Chief Clerk for the Thailand Judicial District. Roy remained in that role as our leader until his untimely passing in April of this year. During his 35 years in state service, Roy served on countless committees and spearheaded initiatives that would pave the way for meaningful change. When the Connecticut Bar Foundation presented the judicial branch staff and judges with the Distinguished Service Award at its reception and annual fellows meeting in October 2021, an award presented to those showing an outstanding and distinguished service to the bench, bar, community, and public, the judicial branch nominated Roy to accept the award on our behalf. So as you can see, Roy had a storied 35-year career in state service. When this building opened in 1995, a building located in a historic New England town, Roy began his quest to fill the bare walls of the newly built courthouse with memorabilia of historical significance. Roy enjoyed his time working with the Thailand Historical Society, the Vernon Historical Society, and the New England Civil War Museum in securing the items on display. Being that our offices were close in proximity, I would often hear Roy discussing the blueprints for the placement of exhibits in this room, such as where a photo might be best viewed, and securing additional items from the historical societies and museum, and in ordering the descriptive signs placed near each exhibit on display. Roy put great effort into the particulars. Once, when visiting this room, I saw a grown man working on what appeared to me to be a dollhouse. When I realized it was Roy, with a small tree in one hand and super glue in the other, well, I can assure you, it was quite the sight to behold, and we had a good laugh. Roy was painstakingly fixing up the replica of the 1906 Maxwell family mansion located behind you and to your left, now known as Rockville General Hospital, ensuring that all the details were perfectly presented. I would like to share with you an article from the February 2022 edition of the Court Operatives newsletter. The following passage is a description of Roy's vision for this exhibition in his own words. In 1995, I started a project at GA19 Rockville to illustrate the history of Tolland County and its people through historical photos and artifacts. Currently, there are over 30 historical framed photos that are on display in 3 public lobbies of the court. In the jury room, there are over 52 photos, maps, diagrams, and 32 artifacts, some dating back to the 1800s. They're on loan from the Tolland and Vernon Historical Societies and the New England Civil War Museum. There are also displays featuring memorabilia of Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Gene Pitney and prints from African-American artist Charles Ethan Porter, both prominent figures who resided in Tolland. Over the years, new items have continually been added to the collection, and it's great to see the jurors and members of the public viewing all the items on display. I want to conclude my words with you today in the same way that I began them. Although Roy is not with us today, those in attendance this afternoon and those watching remotely from their offices and homes, many of which personally credit Roy for their career advancements, can witness the gifts of Roy's everlasting impact on our community. This courthouse, this room, was Roy's life's work. Those of us lucky to know him, his family and friends alike, who collectively shared in his sense of humor, charm, and wisdom, are Roy's life's work. The future generation of prospective jurors who visit this room and walk to each exhibit, reading the captions of our shared history, are Roy's life's work. For a society grows great when people plant trees, the shade of which they know they will never sit in. May the flame of Roy's dedicated spirit never burn out. May Roy's impact on all of us never be forgotten. For this, and for so much more, we are forever grateful to Roy Smith Jr. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Steve, for those heartfelt and inspiring words. And as you said, we're forever grateful for all that Roy did for the district. I now have the pleasure of handing out several certificates of appreciation. So will Jean Luddy of the Vernon Historical Society come forward? Thank you, Adam. The Luddy grew close to Roy over the years, and they donated several items. One of interest is a photo in the back of George Sykes. He was a local mill owner, and believe it or not, this used to be a high school, and the high school was named after George Sykes. So, to you, on behalf of the Judicial Branch, for your generosity in providing the Connecticut Judicial Branch many items of historical significance, and for working with the Tolland Judicial District Chief Clerk Roy Smith Jr., GA19 Jury Assembly Room, the community treasure he envisioned. Due to your contributions, jurors may now learn of the rich history of Rockville and Talon County through the Historical Society's photos, artifacts, and other memorabilia. Dated today, June 28, 2022, and signed by Chief Justice Richard Robinson.
Thank you. Well, Lombardi beautifully summarized your vision. And as we would chat over the years, he really wanted to make this a place that jurors would come and learn about the community, part of the community around them. And we were very proud to be invited to contribute items to share our objects and photographs. And Roy especially enjoyed going shopping at our off-site storage. But he was very, he would come and look at things, and then he would think about it, and he would call up and say, can I have that? And the dollhouse was, he immediately saw that. And as Attorney Lombardi mentioned, it was not in good shape, but he has beautifully restored it, and it is just delightful. And I like the additional lights, and it's restored to its former glory. So with the dedication of the third floor displays and the jury room exhibits, jurors, having fulfilled their civic responsibilities, will leave with an appreciation of the lives and accomplishments of earlier citizens. Hopefully, they will see their town through new eyes. Roy's vision has become his legacy. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Bach of the Talon Historical Society, please come. So the Talon Historical Society also contributed at least 200 photos. And one thing of interest is the wooden mechanism back there, which would call into court at the old Talon courthouse. So to the Talon Historical Society for your generosity in providing the Connecticut Judicial Branch many items of historical significance, and for working with Talon Judicial District Chief Clerk Roy Smith Jr. to make the GA19 Jury Assembly Room the community treasure he envisioned. Due to your contributions, jurors may know and learn the rich history of the town of Talon and Talon County through the Historical Society's photos, artifacts, and memorabilia. Effective this day, 28th of June, 2022, and signed by Chief Justice Richard Robinson. Thank you.
I'm going to not try to be redundant. Different than very difficult. I had 3 different opportunities. One other opportunity involved the fact that this was not the only court, nor were the others that you talked about. He also helped us call to court the Talon County Courthouse on Talon Green, which is this year celebrating its 200th anniversary. And we were able to call it to order about 4 years ago. We also, thank you, yes. The bell was rung. And the mechanism was that not that mechanism was used to call people to jury duty and to court. There were 2 messages that that Roy left us with. There are roads less traveled, and we should take them when we have that opportunity. And when we can't, or when we do, even, we should also sustain ourselves where we are planted and make every effort to do our best where we are planted. And those are 2 messages over the last easily 15 or 20 years that I've had the opportunity to cross paths and have my path converge with Roy's. Those are 2 messages that he instilled in me, and I will take with me in all the projects that I did with him or will do without him. They were important to me, and I hope you will take those with you in your travels. And I will be indebted to him for those. And I enjoyed working with him.
Next, we have the honor of having with us today the family of Gene Pitney, including Gene Pitney's wife, Lynn Pitney, Mr. Pitney's archivist, Emily Santinella, and family members Brian Frederick and Sally Frederick. So if any of those members would like to come forward. Emily? And a number of Gene Pitney's albums can be found in the second room in the back to the left. So, in recognition of the family of Gene Pitney and his archivist, for your generosity in providing the Connecticut Judicial Branch many items related to singer Gene Pitney, a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee and Rockville native. Your work with Thailand Judicial District Chief Clerk Roy Smith Jr. to display memorabilia in the GA19 Jury Assembly Room helps make the space a community treasure that Attorney Smith envisioned, where jurors may now learn about and celebrate the rich history of Rockville and Thailand County. Effective this 28th day of June, 2022, and signed by Chief Justice Richard Robinson. Thank you.
Gene Pitney's family, his archivist, who's also my dad, and I would like to thank you for having us here today. When I first met with Roy to plan our contribution to his project, his enthusiasm was clear, and he was happy to share with me his vision for the space. When my husband and I arrived with boxes of photos, articles, and song lyrics to display, Roy was excited to see what we brought and so appreciative. As I unpacked the items, I told him that my dad joked that he wasn't sure if the Town Without Pity poster was appropriate for the jury room. And Roy, it was so obvious that Roy genuinely cared about each item on display, and he emailed me photos when he added the albums to the wall. This started out as a tribute to Mr. Pitney, but there is no doubt in my mind that he would be pleased to share the space with Roy. They were both kind and humble men with a strong appreciation for this town. It was an honor to be a part of this project, and it was an honor to get to know Roy.
Well, Dan Hayden of the New England Civil War Museum. So I'll note that Mr. Hayden contributed a significant number of photos of New England Civil War troops that are quite impressive and can be found over here. But Roy also supplemented those with a passion of his own for African-American Civil War soldiers, largely unnoticed, unseen, and unthanked. And that was a passion of Roy's. So, to you, for your generosity in providing the Connecticut Judicial Branch many Civil War-related items, and for working with the Thailand Judicial District Chief Clerk Roy Smith Jr. to make the GA19 Jury Assembly Room community treasure Attorney Smith envisioned. Due to your contributions and display, jurors may now learn about Rockville's troops during the war and also celebrate the rich history of the people and places of Thailand County. Effective this 28th day of June, 2022, and signed by Chief Justice Richard Robinson.
Here under the shirt. And we're seeing a pattern here of everybody. With the stuff that we're. I don't know how many phones. Dan, yeah, thanks for that last stuff you brought over, but do you have any more? One time it finally got to, hey, you don't have a cannon over there, do you? No, but we'll look into that. So this actually was very important for the museum, and it forced us to sort of look at our collection, which had been collecting a little dust for a little while, and so it kind of gave us a new birth of looking at the collection and what we were going to be able to tell the story about. And in a direct way, Roy helped us reframe our message in the museum over the past couple of years, actually. And what you, well, actually over here, we're neighbors right across the street. What you see over there is the result of all the work that we've been doing since he gave us the catalyst to move this. When I was driving over here, I had a moment where I was reminded of a little speech of our favorite president across the way. He was at a dedication ceremony just like this, a little bit different context, but in the words that he used in his dedication speech, he said, "It's altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. However, we cannot dedicate, cannot consecrate, cannot hallow this ground. The brave men who struggled here consecrated it, dedicated it far above our poor power to add or to detract." And although the context was different, the message of what President Lincoln was trying to get across is that the real value of this place was because of the work that Roy did. And all of this here, this is of course a hallmark of our democracy to be in this room, but it's so much more than that. Now that somebody can get a pretty full history lesson of the local area, at least by being in this room, and for what he's done for the museum, and also for our main message for the people of the past that we try to represent. I also would like to present his family with a small commendation of our own. As you may or may not know, the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War, the hereditary organization from soldiers who fought during the war, we run the museum in concert with the town. And I, as a commander, I have the honor to be able to present commendations to people who really made an impact. So a certificate of commendation from the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War. On behalf of the Sons of Union Veterans, in recognition of his valuable help in preserving the memory of the Union soldiers and sailors of 1861 to 1865, we present this to Roy Smith Jr. on this 28th day of the 6th month, the year 2022. So thank you very much.
Right, with Doug Snyder of Replay Records, please come forward. So Mr. Snyder donated additional albums of Gene Pitney, again, that can be found in the back. And to you, for your generosity in providing the Connecticut Judicial Branch record albums of Gene Pitney, a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, inductee and Rockville native. Your work with Tolland Judicial District Chief Clerk Roy Smith Jr. to display memorabilia in the GA19 Jury Assembly Room helped make this space the community treasure Attorney Roy Smith envisioned, where jurors may now learn about and celebrate the rich history of Rockville and Tolland County. And that's again effective this 28th day of June, 2022, and signed by Chief Justice Richard Robinson.
Thank you. My part in this is very small. My wife and I run a little record store in Hamden, and got a call once from Roy about doing a project for Gene Pitney, and I lit up because I'm a big Gene Pitney fan. And he came down, and I gave him some albums because the love, you know, the dedication to something that isn't that important to everybody's life, but is a really important part of the history, especially up here. And I'm so sad that he's not here anymore to see it, but I want to thank him. Just want to say a couple things about Gene Pitney, if I may. A lot of people think he's just a rock and roll singer, but I believe he was a lot more. Some of his best works were strong ballads. He worked with country and western artists and did albums. He wrote songs for other people like Ricky Nelson, and his voice was incomparable. And whatever songs he sang them with so much heart that Gene Pitney may be one of the greatest singers of our time. And I put him up there with Bobby Darin or Roy Orbison or anybody else you care to choose. I appreciate so much getting an opportunity to be part of this. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to recognize Mark Bruder. He's not here today. He's watching virtually from Pennsylvania, but an interesting story about Mark. Mark Bruder is the father of one of our assistant clerks, Sam Bruder. And one morning I was making my rounds and I saw in Sam's office this portrait. I saw this portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the sketch here that Mark Bruder drew. But in addition, Sam had in his office a picture of himself as a little boy. And I was so enamored by the picture that I inquired about who the artist was. And Sam told me that it was his father, Mark Bruder. I then hired him to do a sketch of my own mother and gave it to her as a surprise gift. She loved it. He's an amazing artist, and he usually does historical figures, and my mom's not a historian. She might think she is. So, but I'll read his certificate, and he's watching, and I understand that Sam might be on vacation with him today in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, very fitting. For your generosity in drawing a portrait of President Abraham Lincoln and making a print of your outstanding artwork to include among the many Civil War items on display in the GA19 Jury Assembly Room in Rockville. Your work with the Tolland Judicial District Chief Clerk Roy Smith Jr. helped make this space the community treasure Attorney Smith envisioned, where jurors may now learn about this and celebrate the people and places of Talon County. And again, that's dated this June 28th, 2022, and signed by our very own Chief Justice Robinson. So now it's time for the unveiling of the plaque. And Roy Smith Jr. was a history major. And so this entire event is an attempt to preserve history, and through our memorialization of Roy's memory, we'll memorialize him in Rockville's history today. So if I can ask if Roy Smith III and Shayla, you all can come forward. Shayla Alston Smith. We'll do this. We'll do 3, 2, 1. Does that work? Yeah. All right. All right. 3, 2, 1. So for those who can't see, it reads the Roy Smith Jr. A jury assembly room in honor of Attorney Smith, who served as the chief clerk of the Talon Judicial District from November 20, 2009 to April 14, 2022. All right. So fellow attendees, we are now in the Roy Smith Jr. jury assembly. So in closing, I'll just quote something Roy said. The purpose of the exhibits is to highlight the rich history of the people and the places of Talon County, and allowing those individuals called for jury duty to discover Talon's past while waiting to serve. I think we've actually accomplished that here today through the efforts of others and Roy himself. I'd like to thank Rhonda Hebert, Gina Pickett, and Stephen Lombardi for their diligence and attention to details. Thank you to Adam Tomzik for your technical support, to the marshals for keeping us safe, and to the cleaning staff for their continued diligence, especially in the midst of a pandemic. But I'd also like to thank all of you for taking the time, which is one of the most valuable resources we all have, to come in person or to log on and to attend this event. I encourage you to walk around and take a look at the exhibits, also to look at the program so that you can read in detail more about each of the exhibits. And if you'd like to come back, you can contact Gina Pickett, or if you know someone who would like to come back, and she will make sure that this room is accessible to all. And with that, that concludes our formal program. Thank you for coming.